Welcome everybody to the what I'm calling the all cash offer webinar, which I find just amazingly fascinating. Now let's get started. Let's talk about Dave for a minute. I think you all know Dave. He comes to us today with a lot of years of experience. Sorry, that's the puppy barking. And is currently the branch manager for New American Funding. As a top 1% originator in lending nationwide, he's not only experienced and respected as an expert in the field of real estate, he's also a great mind. And I think I've told you guys a million times already. I used Dave for a whole bunch of refinances. My daughter used him for 2 purchases. Quite frankly, in all honesty, he's the best loan officer I've ever used, ever. It's something you can't get that kind of service. I call him an unsung hero. He's just does all this stuff in the background. So it always turned out that the pricing was always like less than what I expected for cost. It was just always, he's always a hero, but he never brags and, or says anything about it. So I got it. So I just think he's really, really good. And I just wanted to say that out loud. And he's also a valued member of Cindy Bishop Worldwide. So let's go ahead and get going.
Thank you, Cindy. Very, very kind words. I've said that before. And as we all know, nobody's perfect, but I would say we do try. We do try very hard here. But at any rate, Dave Oliverio, I'm the branch manager of New American Funding. Very quickly, and I probably said this if you've attended some of these seminars, our goals: add value to your profession. First, that would be first step. Second step, enhance your relationships with your current clients. And then I've said this many times, if we could figure out in some of these financing classes, and Cindy has a lot of good ones, and I'm not the only one that does these classes with good people. If we could come up with some ideas that will trigger new business for you, then that's when we think we're doing something. And that's when we're very happy. So that is our ultimate goal in these financing programs, to come up with some ideas that'll trigger new business for you. Then I would hope everybody's happy. So at any rate, this is a pretty neat program. It's a purchase with all cash. Now, we've had this is New American Funding. Actually, in 2021, 2022, somewhere around there, our company set up an LLC, basically to figure out a way to overcome a minimum down payment in a hot seller's market from their borrowers. So this is how they came up with this effectively all cash program. Now, the neat thing about it, and just the FYI, probably somewhere in the range of 1,500 all cash offers. Now, this is not in this area, of course, throughout the country, and quite frankly, many of them are in California. But we've made and closed 1,500 all cash offers. So they're pretty good at it. But this is essentially some of the benefits. Obviously, it assists buyers in the purchase, we could say, of their new home or their first new home with the benefits of an all cash offer. So the all cash program can be used with 2 ways. It could be used with current property owners who have not sold their home, or it could be with buyers without property ownership. Essentially, it could be a first-time home buyer, including and that should be an ST, including first-time home buyers with minimum down payment requirements. So it's really a pretty nifty product. So essentially, our company, and we'll go to the next slide, but our company makes the all cash offer. So you have a client, they're interested in buying a home, they're a first-time home buyer, they can make a 3% total down payment. Okay, we bring them in, we take them through underwriting. do a tri-merge, the full approval underwriting. Okay, you could qualify with 3% down to a $600,000 sale price / 3% down payment. So we have them fully pre-approved for that $600,000 sale price. Then they, of course, team up with our NAV Cash team. So there are transaction coordinators. And then a contract, and of course, you, the realtor, is teamed up with our NASCAP team. The first offer comes from our company, and it is an all-cash offer. And we make the all-cash offer based on that fully pre-approved underwritten loan. Okay, with 3% down, but what the seller sees is an all-cash offer. They don't know that, like to them, hey, you have an all-cash offer. Like we're going to resell it to our borrower with a 3% down payment, but the seller sees an all-cash offer. So that's what's pretty cool. So essentially protecting that first-time home buyer, making it obviously a heck of a lot stronger contract offer than bringing in a 3% down offer, which in this market, many sellers would like to see possibly a stronger contract than that. So these are all the programs that are available. The Fannie Freddie first-time home buyer, that would be as little as 3% down up to a loan amount of 8,065. So we'll do that Fannie, what's called Home Ready, Freddie Mac Home Possible, eligible. And then, of course, the standard Fannie Freddie when they're not a first-time home buyer. And that down payment is 5% down. But the loan amount in most of our area, there are a few outlying counties that can't get there, but that most of our area is high balance, including Spotsylvania County, Fredericksburg, 5% down to a $1,209,750 loan amount. Now the VA, what the heck, a VA with full entitlement can be zeroed down up to a $2 million loan amount. Now that in itself is pretty incredible. And quite frankly, over the last few years, we've done a few high balance loans, but normally when you get in that 2 million price range, most of these VAs, they're retired officers who have great jobs, second jobs, and most likely they're gonna, like, I haven't seen one yet that has done 0 to 2 million, but I've seen them 5% down, 2 million sale price, or 10% down on 2.5. So normally when you get to that high, it's a little more unusual, literally, to put 0 down, but that's available, assuming that they qualify. The property eligibility, it is for, so the all cash offer is for primary residence only. And of course, any single family and or attached townhouse PUD were fine. Condos, typical, just like if we were doing any Fannie Freddie condo, it has to be warranted by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Many condos in this area are on the Fannie Mae approved list. We do VA condos as long as it's on the VA condo approval list. And there are a lot more VA condos on the VA approved list than say if we were looking at FHA. But just to be clear, this program does not cover FHA loans. So it's conventional and VA. And it's essentially agency. But the good news in our area, you can go a long way with the agency. This is what we're looking for. And this is essentially what you consider skin in the game. So we do require, and I'll make that distinction, but on a conventional, like if you're writing a conventional loan and the sale price is $1 million or less, we are expecting a 5% earnest money deposit. And that's essentially put in escrow at the time we make the all cash offer. If the sale price is greater than 1 million, we're looking for a 10% earnest money deposit. And once again, put into escrow before we make the all cash offer. Now, VA is more lenient. Up to, say, 1 million or less, it's 1.5, that says 1%. It's literally a 1.5% earnest money deposit. And greater than 1 million, it's a 3% earnest money deposit. So I'll make sure we make that change. So on a VA with $1 million or less, it's 1.5% earnest money deposit, and greater than $1 million is 3%. Okay, now, and this is important, the earnest money deposits must be liquid at the time of our cash offer. So must be liquid. So borrower must submit to escrow, to the title agent prior to us making prior to our LLC making the cash offer. The earnest money deposit will be applied towards the down payment and closing cost when we resell to our borrower. So we buy it, resell to the borrower. We'll use the EMD as down payment and closing costs. Now, if we take a look, like if we go back, okay, conventional up to $1 million, need a 5% EMD. So it's a $600,000 sale price, first time home buyer. They do have to come up with 5% EMD, but when we do the loan for them, we're looking at a 3% down payment. So we'll use that 5% EMD for the down payment, and then of course towards closing costs. But they do initially have to come up with either 5 or 10% on the conventional, either 1.5% or 3% on the VA. And once again, must be liquid at the time of the cash offer. So we'll go back to the EMD to be applied towards the down payment closing cost at the time that we sell back to our borrower. Now, our buyer, your buyer, our borrower will incur some, to me, it's relatively nominal fees on the all cash purchase. And what will they incur? They're going to be responsible to pay for the home inspection. So getting to that, whether it's conventional all cash offer or a VA all cash offer, there will be a home inspection contingency. That is the only contingency on a conventional all cash offer, is the home inspection. But and the borrower is expected to pay for it. Now, also on the all cash offer, our borrower, your buyer, is expected to pay for owner's title insurance. But then in many cases, if they don't own a current property, they're going to be, in the 7 to 10 days from closing, they're going to be settling again on that home that we've paid all cash for. So most likely they can get a pretty good reissue rate on the owner's title insurance. So there will be some fees incurred on the all cash offer, home inspection, owner's title insurance. And that's quite frankly for both conventional and a VA contract. Whether they're buying conventional or buying a VA. Okay, and I think we made a point of saying there will not be an appraisal ordered. So there will not be an appraisal ordered on a conventional contract. So one contingency, the home inspection contingency. Now, how do we figure out what that property is worth? From a comparative market analysis from you, our agent, and then we do what's called an automated valuation model. We take a look at that. If that's in line, we go with that. So if it's not in line, then we'll do a desktop. If we do a desktop, that's a little more expensive, but on our shoulders, on the all cash offer. So we'll look at your CMA, we'll do an AVM. If that's in line, we stop there. If not, we do a desktop. So that's good. Now, if we're we're writing an all cash offer, but our borrower is just qualified for a VA loan. So we know the resale has got to be VA. Okay, but the seller only sees that all cash offer. But if the resale is going to a VA buyer, then we will order a conventional appraisal. We won't order a VA appraisal, but we will order a conventional appraisal. So if we bring in a VA candidate, we qualify them. It's an all cash offer, but knowing that we're going to have to resell VA, we have to take a little more cautious approach. But the appraisal that we order will not be a VA appraisal. It'll be a conventional appraisal, all cash offer. So there'll be two contingencies when we're buying a home for a VA candidate: home inspection contingency and appraisal contingency. But we'll be doing not a VA appraisal, but a conventional appraisal. So one contingency if it's a conventional offer, two contingency if we know on the resale it's going to be a VA buyer. And we've already, because obviously they were qualified for a VA.
Dave, with regards
Yeah.
to the offer, you're saying that earnest money deposit has to be at the settlement company prior to NAF providing the cash offer to the buyer. How is that written into the contract then? If we're supposed to be showing it as a cash offer, but NFA is not going to offer the cash until the earnest money deposit is at the settlement company.
Question, we match whatever the borrower puts in. So on that all cash offer, the escrow is literally coming from New American Funding. But see that effectively that earnest money deposit, what it is, that is their what's called skin in the game. Okay. And they'll sign an agreement stating that. Like, and what you say, well, what do you mean skin in the game? We make the offer. So one, we want to be certain that money is in an escrow account and it's accounted for. So we make the all cash offer.
So the contract is written in NAF's name?
The all cash offer is from New American Funding LLC. So the seller, now most likely just thinking it out, like there's some sellers that may be offended selling it to an LLC, but that's where most likely your relationship with the listing agent, it's an all cash offer, but the intent is to sell it to my borrower. But we're going to be, but New American Funding is making an all cash offer. So no, we're literally, the purchaser is New American Funding.
Okay,
So
then I
effectively, you're presenting, overall, you'll be presenting two contracts. The all cash contract will be from New American Funding LLC. So that's what the seller is going to see. The seller's not going to see that 3% down or 5% down. They will not see that. We will have qualified them. So before we're going to make the all cash offer to the seller, we're going to be certain that the borrower is going to qualify. when we resell it to your buyer. But it's literally, so the seller has no, doesn't have to, like, that's all they see is, hey, I just got an all cash offer with a home inspection. And not only is it an all cash offer, but we also show proof of funds. So it's officers from the LLC that will be signing it. And we also show proof of funds to the seller. Like that would be isn't that on your standard all cash offers? Sellers want to make sure that the cash is there. So they see funds. We will show proof of funds. So seller doesn't, they don't know that, hey, who we're going to sell it to. What they're going to be looking at is the merits of the all cash offer.
So behind the scenes, there'll be an additional contract between NAF LLC and the buyer.
Right. So we go to closing, we close the loan. So on day one, we close the loan. Then we resell the loan to our borrower. We resell the home to our borrower. And then that's when the second contract is written between New American Funding as seller to your client as buyer, based on the pre-approval that we did before we made the all cash offer. So good point, good question. There's literally two contracts. But
Thank
probably
you.
Sure, you're welcome. But probably a better point is that seller doesn't have to be aware of, hey, we have a buyer that wants to put 3% down, or wants to put 5% down. What the seller sees is an all cash offer from an LLC with proof of funds on a conventional loan with one contingency, a home inspection contingency. That's all they see. And now we have had, just like over in the last couple of years, there has been like these big conglomerates like BlackRock that'll go in and buy every home in sight in Charlotte, North Carolina, let's say. So if, that's something, if you need to overcome, and it's up to you, you all do this a heck of a lot more than I do, your relationship with listing agents, you might, to reassure them, hey, it's not some conglomerate buying your home to rent out for 50 years. We have somebody, that we intend to resell it to after we close on your all cash offer. That'll be your strategy and how you would think it would be best to move that contract forward. The bottom line, seller, they're clueless about who our buyer is, and they can remain clueless. And it'll be up to you and what your strategy is, whether you want to make them aware of that or not. So it's really pretty cool. Like, last year, quite frankly, I was in 2024. I was really, because I do deal with some, with a fair number of agents, and I had some like top agents that when I addressed this with them, basically their feedback was, hey, in this market, it's a contradiction. You're going to make an all cash offer, but have a home inspection. That's a contradiction. Or on a VA, you're going to have a whole all cash offer and require a home inspection and a conventional appraisal. I do think the market has changed where this is going to be a lot more receptive than, say, it was at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024. So I do think this is something that can help. Now, you see, this is another thing, like, like a company, it's a for-profit company, of course. So there is a cost to your buyer, our borrower. There is a cost. Okay, and on this slide, so New American Funding, the seller, resells the home to our borrower according to whatever guidelines we're using. is it a 3% down, 5% down as a VA loan? We will charge them. So we already know they're paying for some owner's title insurance and the home inspection. And most likely, like, I would be one surprised person if they cannot get a reissue on the owner's title policy if they're going to be settling very quickly after that, which we know they will. So there is a 2.2% fee to do this, charged to the borrower. So as a ballpark, I would say 2.2% plus a couple $1,000, and that would be for the home inspection, which they may want it anyway. And I guess worst case for owner's title insurance. So maybe another 2K added to the, and one is a home inspection like that many of your clients would want anyway. Okay, now this is how, in general, this is what it would look like. And then I'll go over some things that I think could make some sense. So let's just say we have a purchase price of 500,000. So we bought it for 500,000 from the seller. So you presented that all cash contract with a home inspection contingency. It settles in 10 to 14 days. Okay, then we write another contract. We resell to our borrower for technically 511,000 with 3% down. So as long as when we sent out because remember on that all cash conventional contract, we didn't do a full appraisal. On the resale, we do a full appraisal unless it's 20% down and we can get or even a 10% down, we can get an appraisal waiver. But let's just presume a full appraisal. As long as that appraisal comes in at a 511 sell price, they're effectively financing that 2.2% into the loan amount. Now, this is how I would look at it. This is, let's just say you have and I think it could be very fair. You have a like your buyer, or maybe even like you say, look, the max our borrower wants to pay for property A is 500,000. They don't want to go a penny over 500,000. Then what I would do, and I'll be a part of this whole process. We have what's called transaction coordinators, and they're seasoned. They're going to help you with the all cash contract. But I'll be right along because I've seen many, many contracts. But what my point is, let's just say they say, hey, for that home, I will not go over $500,000 for this home. Okay, so we take 500 times 97.8%, which is 489. Say, okay, offer 489 all cash. You following me? Like if you have a buyer that's focused on, and some may be, hey, look, I'm not going to pay any more than X amount, then just drop it by about 2% when you make the all cash offer. Now, see, this is what I hear. That doesn't mean it happens in this area, but they come up with statistics that say, look, in general, you can offer less on an all cash offer. And in many cases, the seller will take the all cash offer over a little higher priced down payment contingency. Now, you all know better than me. You see these contracts, but that's what we're hearing, implying that, hey, that all cash offer, you may be able to get, you may be able to win the contract offering less than what other contracts come in. You know that better than me, but that's what statistics show throughout the country, that a seller will take an all cash offer over a little higher price offer that has a financing contingency. So what do you think? Like, what is your feedback on that, on all cash offers? Do you think there's merit there, or do you think it's overstated? Meaning, hey, if it's an all cash offer, you can offer a little less and they'll still take. Do any of you have an opinion on that, Bill or Renee or Anastasia or Sherry?
What restrictions are there? You said they could do it if they currently own a home, but they need to sell the home to complete the transaction. What happens then?
Okay, yeah, that's gonna be, that's a good question. We're gonna cover that in the next slide. And that's quite frankly, it's less attractive, but I'll go over with you because they're looking, like we're requiring 30% net equity in their current property. And that's 30% net equity.
Well,
And I'll
that's
go,
not such a big problem lately.
well, that's a good point.
People
That's
have
a good
equity.
point. Plus, see, another thing too, we'll do 30% net equity, but we'll also use their 401ks, any liquid assets to draw down that 30% net equity. So it's not just the net equity, but we'll give them some help, assuming they have 401ks, retirement accounts. So we're fairly liberal in what we consider net equity. So that would include liquid, mutual funds, stocks, retirement accounts. So, it may work on a property that they have to sell, because you make good points. There's been a lot of appreciation, like since 2019, 2020, 2021, a heck of a lot of appreciation. But does it make sense on the all cash offer how you could overcome an objection of that 2.2%? And Virginia is one of the states, because our closing costs are relatively low, where that fee is relatively low. Like for instance, if we were doing a contract in DC, the fee is 3.45%. In Maryland, it's all over the place. It's per county, but in general, it's going to be around 3.5% fee. So Virginia, relatively decent, 2.2%. But that's a way to overcome that objection, in my opinion. If you have a borrower that's set on, hey, I'm not going to pay any more than X amount, do 98% of it and make your all cash off.
Okay, got a couple other questions. What happens
Sure.
if the VA appraisal is low? You've gone in there relying on a conventional appraisal?
Yes, and yeah, good. Another good question. That's another good question. Yeah, because we are relying on a conventional appraisal. Yeah,
I haven't had low VA appraisals in quite a while, but I've done less buyers with VA loans lately.
yeah.
I think the
Yeah,
appraisers are
it's
getting
a good
better, but
question. Yeah, that's a very good question, and they do sign an agreement that if that's the case, they'll have to make up the difference, the gap.
okay.
Now, this is probably you're making some very good points, but I'll say this. And now I'm going back to 2013. There was like a sea change in the way the Veterans Administration appraisals went out and did their opinions of value. Like in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, you could count on a VA appraisal max coming in at sale price, but in many cases coming in low. We have, like I would say, it is a rare bird. And I will compare it with our conventional appraisals. It is a rare bird when we have a VA appraisal that doesn't come in at value. And this is over the last several years. And I don't know what are you all seeing the same thing? Like, I'm just not seeing issues on VA appraisals where admittedly for years there were. And I think that's where we get that mentality. Uh-oh, it's a VA. And also we all know about the mandatory clause. But see, another cool thing, another good thing, when we've approved your VA buyer and we write that all cash contract, the seller doesn't know it's a VA. They don't see an mandatory clause. So they're not, now they do see appraisal
Yeah.
contingency, but they do not see an amendatory clause.
Well,
So,
that's a good point.
yeah. So that's
Uh,
pretty good in itself.
yeah. I'm not so sure that a cash offer, depending on the market and the competition for a particular house, is going to win below list price or even at list price because,
Good point.
you know, sellers are greedy. They've been able to be greedy for a while.
Yeah, yeah, a good point. Good point. Yeah, that just, a lot of it is gonna really depend upon that particular property. I'm still, I'm still writing pre-approval letters that get, like where they don't win the contract. And they're
Yeah.
offering
Yeah, but
over
I'm
price.
finding
So,
more it's my buyer's up against 2 other offers instead of 10 other offers. So
yeah,
it is changing
yeah,
slowly.
Well, it
that's
really
cool. That's good.
I think it depends on the location and the price
Yeah,
point of the home. For instance, I have a property listed in King George. It's been out there a really long time. And a majority of the properties in that neighborhood, they've dropped their home prices 15K, 20K just to
yeah,
start getting offers. And we're seeing price drops throughout Northern Virginia, as well as sellers paying concessions. So I think the market is shifting a little bit. Prices are still going up because of the inventory shortage, but we're still seeing where there's some buyers that can get some good deals because prices are dropping in some locations.
yeah, yeah. And,
Yeah, and
that's a good point. And this is why, I think this program is a stronger program today than it was 12 months ago, or 10 months ago, or 11 months ago.
I think it'll appeal more to downsizers who may want to buy their home and get into that property before selling the current one. And then I guess for me, I would want to compare your bridge loan product that you have against this product to kind of see, which one actually would work out best for the downsizers.
well,
Yeah, because that bridge loan that's attractive. That's
Yeah.
also
the
attractive.
the
So
bridge
you're
loans are
right.
expensive too. And I think you're in a weaker position offering, doing an offer that's including a bridge loan, then I think the cash offer does have some attraction. And I'm in Maryland, and yes, we are seeing mostly above $1 million. We are seeing 10, 15, $50,000 price drops.
Well,
One poor
yeah,
house gets a drop
yeah.
every 2
And
weeks.
I did mention that, in Maryland, that fee is higher. You could count on 3.5%.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand the difference between
Because
Maryland and
closing
Virginia.
costs are higher. Yeah, closing costs.
Yeah, I understand that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I had one other question. Uh, can the earnest money be held by the real estate broker? We don't typically have the title company hold the earnest money deposit because the title company, despite signing a form that says they will uh, handle the deposit the same way a broker does, title companies seem to be able to decide on their own what they're going to do with the earnest money deposit, like return it to um, the buyer or return it to the seller. When they seem to think they have the autonomy to make that decision.
Sure. On this program, it's pretty tight because that's effectively the buyer's commitment to us. So that makes it pretty, that's their commitment to buy the home from us. You following me? We buy it, then we need to sell it.
Right. I understand.
That's their,
This,
and but I could check on that. See, this is what I'm going to do is we have a guy that's been that he heads this department. He's uh, what I'll do is because there is a 1 hour. It's just a very overview, a 1 hour realtor overview that
right. We saw that. Yeah.
you take, and it's yeah, like they don't drill down, but what I'll do if whomever's interested, you just email me, and then I'll get these people who literally head the program to give you a call and dig in further to it, if you're following me.
Right.
I think I've given you a pretty good idea how it works.
Yeah.
But essentially, that EMD that's their commitment. Like that's what holds.
So does that mean you guys hold it
No,
or
the title agent holds it, but you see, part of the process, we approve them, we send out a participation agreement, which are, they could get that to you. That participation agreement will outline in detail what the borrower's responsibilities are. This is before you write the contract. Like,
so in other words, so even the title companies agreed to this participation, and that's what Sherry's after. They, I guess, in Maryland, it's a little loosier goosier maybe than here. Here, if you give it to the title company, they can't just disperse it anywhere.
No,
You
they
know,
don't.
that's kind of yeah. In fact, most brokers in Virginia don't want to hold it
Yeah.
because the
Right,
title company holds it,
exactly.
and they seem to adhere to what they're supposed to do, and they never give it to the buyer or sell. I mean, they just never it just doesn't happen. So,
Well,
man, that would be very scary. So, in the case of Sherry's example, where she's in Maryland, if there is a written agreement that the title company has adhered to, and my suggestion would be you make sure you close with an attorney's firm
right.
since they have more rules because of their licensing, then they agree to participate in this program and that earnest money deposit is safe.
Yeah, because Virginia, we have a void and release. So both parties sign the void, and
Mhm.
then you do the release, which goes to the settlement company. And on the release, you already identify which party is going to get the MD money. So
Mhm.
there is no confusion with the settlement company, and they are not doing what they want to do because the release gives the instructions as to how they're going to disperse those funds.
Yeah,
We,
perfect.
we
They
have
say,
we have the same rules, but
oh, but yet they,
I've been to
oh,
settlements where I know the seller never gave the security deposit to the title company. They
oh
just
my,
do a lot of settlements with them, and the title company just says they have the money. And
oh
yeah.
my
Now
God.
those were
Well,
not on high ticket sales; those were usually investors. But yeah, okay. But
yeah, but
anyhow,
still, that shouldn't be happening. I mean,
yeah, I agree. It
over
shouldn't be
here,
happening.
DPOR would sniff that out, and man, they'd be litigating that. I mean, they're the
Exactly.
kings and queens over there of litigation down there in Richmond.
Well, I don't know that the real estate commission, we have a pretty aggressive real estate commission, but I don't know that they can take on title companies. But anyhow, all right. So never mind about that. I
Okay,
think the other questions you answered. Thank you.
but that's really super
Sure,
important to
sure.
know, though,
Okay.
because that could be a bone of contention. So anyway, all right.
So basically, on this slide that we're looking at, borrower can occupy the day of close on the all cash offer. Uh, and then we'll get to but on that day of closing, essentially, we're going to require a short-term lease to be signed on for that whatever day it is. And see that then once again, we'll, that will depend upon, hey, do they have a home to sell or do they not have a home to sell? So that rental could extend. But if they don't have a home to sell, we'll turn the resale over quickly, probably I'd say 10 days. If I had to pick a time, it would be 10 days because the only thing we'd have to do is order an appraisal because the loan's already approved. So the borrower will pay daily rent until closing of the loan. Day one, all utilities are placed in the borrower's name at the day of settlement. And then, of course, the borrower is going to be responsible for taxes, HOA fees, whatever, from the day of settlement. Okay, this is what what I addressed a little earlier on a question. They can vacate their current property without selling it, but there must have 30% net equity, and that would be based on an AVM on current property. The good news is that we could use current liquid assets, 401ks, retirement accounts to meet the 30% net asset requirement. And what's very nice, good, is that if it fits, that housing payment on their current property is not included in the DTI ratios. And that's great. Like the taller order is the 30% net equity, but I think a point, I believe Sherry made a good point, or Renee, hey, there may be more 30% net properties out there than we think. Now, if they do have a home to sell, there's a requirement within 7 days of the all cash settlement, their home has to be put on the market list.
And Dave, I
Now-
assume we can put that in a coming soon status. As long as it's on the market, it can be coming soon. It doesn't have to be active, correct?
Correct. Right. You could do a pocket listing, quite frankly.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So my
I did
biggest
see-
concern was how the DTI was going to be handled with the existing property, but okay, I think it's great that you're not using it against them.
Yeah, with 30% net equity there, yeah, we don't have to, because if they had to carry it, that would be a very tall order.
Exactly.
Period. Now, this is the lease agreement, and it's based on the sale price on the all cash, so it's all cash offer sale price. So it's not the fees that are going to be built in. And that's a monthly fee divided by 30. So if they are not vacating a property, you figure 10 days, it'll be 30 divided and then times 10, and that will be their requirement for the lease. So basically, it's really based on a day-to-day, but you could take a look at that. Now, the hope is it's not going to be any longer than 60 days. If it's longer than 60 days, we have a provision with an add-on that will extend it longer than 60. But obviously, the hope would be get that home on the market, the vacating home on the market, and sell and settle within a 60-day period. So this is a lease agreement and payment methods. So we say like we brought that 500,000 to 600,000 that's 3,500. That's like 100 a day. And these are effectively the 5-step process, pre-approved and fully underwritten. So this would require, it's a true pre-approval with a tri-merge. So it's fully underwritten by a New American Funding underwriter. So no equivocation. And then see, once it's approved, then that's when that participation agreement is signed. And what I could do is I could get like I can get a hold of probably the best thing to do would be I'll get you in contact with the head of the SNAP cash program. That would probably be the best thing to do. But I can get you a hold of the participation agreements. And like I said, during this process, because I've had a fair amount of experience, and like I don't literally submit the contract, but I've had a fair amount of experience looking at contracts, strategies, contracts, you name it. I've had a fair amount, like I do, get involved, pretty much involved with the buyer's agents over the years, and especially in this hot seller's market. So pre-approved, fully underwritten, submit the cash offer accepted and closed. Your client moves in, client buys the property. So that's an overview of how this NAF cash program works, an overview. So this is what I would say. If you're interested, we could, just like I've taken probably that 1-hour class 3 times. I took it yesterday, again, just as a refresher, and that's a cash for realtors. And that basically, that just gets you started, gets you contact people, to get your name on our realtor approved list. And so basically, but this, there are a couple of people that had the department. I'll have them, you email me, I'll have them contact you. And they're pretty aggressive, meaning they're not gonna wait till next week to get in touch with you. And then we could take it from there. But I think, go ahead.
I don't think that
I'm
was
sorry.
anything.
Okay.
So, you're gonna send out the slides
Yeah, we'll
and then
send
they'll
out the
have all your
slides.
contact information. Okay.
Yeah, sure. And like I said, in conclusion, I think this all cash offer has found a place and time where it's more valuable in this market, say, than it was in the last couple of years. I think it's more valuable today. So it could work for you, and hopefully it'll trigger some new business for you and your people. So at any rate, I'll look forward to hearing from you. I'll get these slides out, and if you have any further questions, you could feel free to give me a call. But a lot of great questions. A lot of
They
great
really were.
questions.
Yeah, they really were. It made it very interesting.
You're right on top of it, no doubt about that.
Yeah. And
Okay,
next
good.
week, Dave's doing FHA 203K. I think those renovation loans, I did so many of them in my day. They really work, especially if foreclosures come back. I mean, let's face it. I have a house in my neighborhood. Heck, when they bought the house, they haven't made one improvement to it. Not one. Somebody's got to move in there. You know what I mean? And do some work. Well, it hasn't sold yet, but anyway, it just
Yeah,
I think
as
I
soon
think it's
as,
going to be more. I think it's going to be more of a need.
yeah. Well, good deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's also a conventional renovation program that's pretty
Right. Well,
attractive.
you talk about it in that
Yeah,
class
we
too.
can talk
So
about it next week.
yeah.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
guys.
Thank you
Yep.
for
Thanks,
Thanks.
Dave. Thanks, Cindy.
Very welcome.
Thanks,
You
Sandra.
have a good day, guys.
Thank you.
Have a
You as
good
well.
day.
Thanks.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks, Sandra.
Bye.